technical partners? Do they want people to be like, are they going to put forward some tech and ask us to implement it? Are there certain requirements that you're looking for in partners? I'm just trying to get some clarity around that.
Sure. We are aware that there are folks from AI organizations and companies that have come forward when we've been talking about this to a number of people in the lead up to this launch. And so we expect there will be people that have teams and may or may not need additional partners for the interests they have. But we are interested in partnering those individuals and or groups who would like to be approaching, for example, one of the use cases that we've presented as a focus. And if that individual or group needs to be a part of a tech, an AI organization, we will seek to take those individuals that have attended from an AI organizations and see if we can put that together. Does that help answer your question?
Well, it seems like there's that focus on AI, but I mean, beyond just AI, because there's a lot of different technical parts. There's
Yep.
a lot of different tech that can be used in this regard. I'm just kind of wondering, are you looking for like one prototype, many prototypes? What are the roles for various types of technical partners?
Right. So obviously the minimum is we're looking for a prototype. We realize it's a short period of time, so we don't want to make unreasonable expectations. That prototype, and we presume will be anchored around some form of narrow or general AI technology. And but there, as you point out, there's a number of other elements to this. There needs to be familiarity with the actual JSON LD data models that represent the structured buckets into which the data from unstructured sources gets parsed or placed, shall we say, into the right locations in those models. There needs to be people with understanding of bias to be able to look at the input data to see what characteristics it has at the start, as well as what the characteristics of the generated credentials might have that represent bias that is either simply transferred through or imposed on the outputted credentials. And there's a number of questions about how do we measure the actual process to give transparency and things like what was the decision tree or the decision path that was followed by the AI? What are the other metrics that the processing of the data might generate that we could use to assess its quality and efficacy? But we're not trying to be prescriptive, because we want to make, for this information gathering and community discussion here and others will have, we're going to try to pull together the best combination of resources and people that have access to the skills that are necessary. We are putting together a couple of support teams to help everyone. One includes, I saw Bill Simmons there from ACRO. One includes a group of registrars from ACRO who know deeply the structure of the transcripts that institutions issue, and that includes their representation in the flat form of a PDF. But several of the registrars have been involved in its creation of that new verifiable data version of the transcript. So we also have some people on the JSON LD side and the standard side for those that need help with that side of things. But other assistance as necessary needs to be surfaced, and then we can try to respond. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps. It's still foggy, but it's getting there.
Well, so you'll see in the Padlet, there is a section on the left side, which is just the Padlet is designed into columns, if that's not obvious. And so the first side is simply the introduce yourself. And the question that the first sort of prompt question in the second column is this notion: in either AI is going to be ingesting unstructured data from a variety of different forms and doing something with it in a kind of a straightforward workflow process. But we anticipate that there's going to be a great deal of interest for AI to be implemented in the context of an agent that works with an individual and elicits from that individual the information that they need, that is necessary in order to generate structured representations of the data on that individual's capabilities and skills, and then maps those into those target data models. So those are the two sort of generic workflows that we see. We tend to see with the influence of ChatGPT and Pilot and all these other AI-based individual tools, that those may be the more popular approach to consider. But we need your feedback as to what you think about this, because another possibility is aggregating large numbers of input data from, for example, historical records that institutions have generated and issued to their graduates, and that alumni carry with them. And there are tens of millions of people out there with various unstructured credentials of that sort, which could be a source for a process like this. So what do you think needs to be done or what do you think you would need to know for the choice to be made on those two approaches, and or things that you would need to know for the choice that you have made that would make approaching that particular challenge easier for you? That's what we're looking for in column 1. Any comments about that?
Thank you.
I'm surprised that people are as quiet as they are.
This is Karen Kilroy. Can you hear me?
Yes, Karen, absolutely.
Thanks. This is a really fascinating project, and thanks for all the details about it. I have a question. I may have missed this. Is there funding other than travel? Is there funding for the teams that are doing this development?
Well, it depends on how many teams we have, to be quite candid about it. We originally had planned to offer a modest contribution to each of the teams, but as we saw the numbers and interest in the project growing, and as we talked to different cohorts of folks that were interested in the project from the preliminary stages, it became apparent to us that it would be a token contribution at best, and that the better part of valor might be to save the money that we have available, which is going in part to sort of managing the project, but also providing the support structures, people that you can talk to on a regular basis and such, to answer questions and the like, to have the money left over to support the attendance at the final meeting where you present things. So that's the current bias from the input that we've gotten so far.
And then after the final meeting, is there funding for the whoever's developing the project?
We anticipate this is phase 1, and that the next phase will be based on what happens in this first phase, that we will be going back to our primary funder, in this case, the Gates Foundation, and with the wonderful tantalizing work that's been done, seek a round 2 of this funding for the implementation of those. So the answer is that's the hope, but it's going to be dependent on what happens in phase 1.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you being candid.
Yeah, the only way we can work together and do this with collaboration. So,
hi, Phil.
Yes.
Hi, nice to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wondering about if there are requirements around openness. So I'm starting a for-profit company, first of all, and second of all, what about the data side? Are there requirements on the data being open or closed?
Good questions. And we've had those conversations with some of the AI companies who are using their AI algorithm that they use for their finance. They have a primary business doing financial data transformation, for example. from unstructured to structured sources. We understand that that people are not going to be particularly enthusiastic to share their IP to the world for the things that they have already built, and do not expect that. We do expect to be as transparent as possible, and if that means that maybe some of the data, so an API might be needed to be built to provide an input source to the AI engine, and that therefore the API can be public. And we expect that the measures of the decision processing that the AI engine does can be extracted and presented in a way and shared publicly, so that the decision tree associated with the work that the AI did to get to the output can be shared. We expect that the analysis of the data in terms of bias and skew are things that can be publicly shared. And we expect, but when it comes to the actual data itself, that I suspect is going to have to be done on a project by project decision, because there's one source of data from universities, for example, for transcripts, and we certainly have to protect any PII that might be in that data. So we may have to do some anonymization of it, but again, we're going to try to be as open as we can while respecting the IP and PII rights of the various partners and data sources.
It wasn't really crystal clear to me on the end of it and at the output. The project needs to be transparent at the end. The AI needs to be no, yes,
no, not we're not expecting you to give away your engine that you developed and make that public unless you so wish to do so. But the thing that's the output is the actual data models populated by whatever the technology you chose to apply to it, and those data models need to be public. And if that that will require looking at them and making sure if there's PI in there, that we appropriately anonymize that so that we can share the output without sharing things inappropriately.
Got it. A quick follow-up. Hopefully I'm not dominating too much, but we're hoping to have users enter data into their own profiles. So I assume that that's okay. That's fine.
Absolutely. We expect that those that choose the sort of AI agent approach will be doing exactly that. That individuals will be interacting with an AI agent, and the AI agent will be prompting them for a description of what you learned on the job when you describe, and then iterate with them around the skills that might have been gained in that process. Compare those to the Credential Engine Skills Repository to see if we can translate those things into more standardized representations that the business world is expecting to see. Oh my gosh, we have a minute. And I just lost my train of thought. And and to then populate with the permission of the holder, that the individual that they're working with, the data model that is being built.
Thank you.
Philip, would you be willing to put your email address?
Oh, certainly. Where would you like me to put it? In the chat?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Sure. I will see where the chat is in my screen at the moment. And I guess I have to bring it up this way. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other data models we should have considered? If anybody has any output choices that we have missed, wanting structured output. And we'll see you on the other side in just a second.
I put a note in the chat in the main room, Phil, but we need to keep in mind these are containers.
That's correct.
These are containers that need to be filled with meaningful data, i.e. CTDL.
Understood.
Yeah, Phil, this is
coming from Credential Engine.
Scope is when we're thinking, say, data models? Are we keeping the scope to the US for now?
Not necessarily. I put in the ones from the US that I'm aware of, but as you know, there are good data models in the EU and other places in the world. We are more than happy to consider those. And with your help, Simone, we'll add them in.
Yeah, sure. I would just probably add one from Europe that is the more
EDL.
structured methodology, the European learner model. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I would love to see an output from this being able to crosswalk across different semantic standards.
And how you want to elaborate that for a second?
Well, for example, CTDL to Elm.
I see. Understood. So would you put, is that in, have you put that in the Padlet yet?
Someone already
I'll do
captured
that,
it.
Phil.
Got it.
That's what's